Welcome to Falcons Pulse, Week 3 NFL football predictions for this Sunday and Monday. We missed Thursday, but a lot of big games coming up. Are the Vikings, the Saints pretenders? Are the 49ers going to be contenders? Can they stay healthy? Are we going to see that team do what they did last year as well? A lot of things going on, but Week 3, a lot of unpredictable things are going to happen. I don't think it's going to be as predictable as just like last week. So let's dive right in. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Let's go. All right, so we missed the Thursday game, like I said. It's a game that for fantasy for me, I had Rodgers on the bench. What a game for him, huh? Patriots, they got a lot to work on. I'm super excited to see Drake make it the start, see him at the end of the drive, at the end of the game there. He unfortunate he didn't have a game plan. He was just thrown into garbage time. I'd love to see him have an opportunity in a spot where it's not 3 minutes in a throwaway game. So I think the Jets are the best team in the AFC, and I'm going to stand by that until they prove me otherwise. Rodgers getting his footing is huge. I mean, awesome to see it again, especially because he's the last of the quarterbacks that I grew up with. So no surprise there. But on to the first game. So we have the Browns and the Giants, two teams that struggle to put up points, especially with their offenses. And I think the Giants are right there with the Panthers at the bottom of the league. It'll be interesting to see if Deshaun Watson can do a little bit better. I think his tackles are getting healthier. He's played without him for a little bit, so I'm hopeful he can start putting it together. They got a win against Jacksonville. It wasn't pretty, but when you get wins like that, it helps build the team. So I'm hoping as the year goes on, the Browns offense starts to see movement and not be so flat. It's tough to watch. But they do have injuries. So I'm still gonna keep my predictions the Browns. I just don't see Daniel Jones in that Giants offense doing anything. Even with a banged up Browns team, I just the Giants are going to be my pick to lose for a long time, unless they're playing a team like the Panthers. So that's my prediction on that one. And so now the next game we come to is the Bears at Colts. Man, what a game here. It could be a bounce back game for Caleb Williams. It could also be a bounce back game for Anthony Richardson, who put up terrible numbers against a Packers team. Their defense is solid. I'm not sold completely just yet on them, but the Colts, they let them run all over them on defense as well. So I mean, Swift, if you have him in fantasy, probably a good week to start him. The Bears, they just their offense isn't moving. It looks like it did with Fields so far, even with all the new weapons. I'm not sure. They played the Texans, and granted, the Texans have a good defense, so I'm not sure if I'm sold on Caleb Williams just yet. But in this case, I'm gonna stick with the Bears. The Colts here, they've just struggled to grasp me. I'm gonna have to see a little bit more out of them going forward. Their defense being ran on, like I said. I mean, Swift might have himself a day. That's saying that the Bears offense, their line will give them that opportunity, but I think they don't really need to stress too much, especially with Buckner going on IR. Tough loss for the Colts. So Anthony Richardson, I just don't see this being the game. They're going to start 0-3. It's going to look like a slide for them, but the Bears, they're going to pick up a win here. It's going to be big for them. I just don't see it going a different direction right now. All right, on to the next game. We have the Texans at the Vikings, and this game is an interesting one. 2-0 teams. One team's walking out with an L. I'm not seeing a tie. So the Vikings, they've got a big win against the Niners team, who weren't as banged up as they are now. But it's going to be very interesting to see how Stroud does against that Vikings defense. Their front seven's, I mean, it's solid. Once you get into the DB room, it's a little bit more shaky. But I think they've done a great job. Darnold on offense has surprised many people, but that's early season. A lot of things like that happen. We had Josh Dobbs last year who was doing things, and then as the season progressed, he just slowed down back to where we thought he was. So, do I see Darnold being as effective here? I think he can still keep on, but I don't know how long it's sustainable, especially with a Texans team that I think Stroud's going to get the wheels going. He hasn't been amazing so far. I'm hoping he keeps getting the ball rolling. I mean, we're seeing this with the shift in preseason games where starters just don't play like they used to. So we're seeing the slow starts again. So I think Stroud and those guys, they'll get it going. Mixon being doubtful, it's going to affect it. Can Akers put up the run game? We'll see. They'll need both for that Vikings defense to kind of keep them on edge for they're not too predictable. But I think Stroud and the Texans walk into Minnesota, ruin the Darnold party. I just don't. I think the Texans are one of the best teams in the AFC. They're not the best, as I have the Chiefs at number one, but the Texans are up there, and the Vikings, they're a surprise team. How long they surprise, I'm not sure. I'm just not gonna continue with it. Eagles at Saints. Big game here for the Eagles. Saints coming off of a big win in Dallas. Very convincing. As a Falcons fan, I'm not sure I like that, but I'll give credit where it's due, even with the Aints. They impressed. So Eagles coming in here, as you can see highlighted, I have them winning. How? Well, I just believe in that offense. I think their defense is going to allow a lot of points. I think this is game of the week. It's going to be a lot of scoring. But I do think the Eagles will pull this one out, squeak it. It's very close. They just need a bounce back game. So if they slide on this one, it's going to look rough. After they lose to Atlanta by 1 point, I think they need to come into New Orleans and show us something. So this is a prove it game for me with the Eagles. Saints, I know I'm a Falcons fan. I'm not trying to underestimate, but how long can Carr sustain it? He's done this many times before with the Raiders and now with the Saints. Can he continue to do it, or is he going to be 3 games and then back to the normal Carr we know? So I have the Eagles in this one. We'll see what truly happens, though. On to the boring game of the week. We have the Chargers at the Steelers. And not a lot to say here. Steelers defense is probably going to quiet the Chargers offense. Herbert's questionable, so I'm playing this as if he's not going to play. So is it a 50-50? I don't think so as much. Both are 2-0, but not convincingly. I think the Steelers defense is going to be hard for teams to get by. Will it start to crack? I'm not sure. But that offense isn't going to get the job done every game. But in this one, they will. No Herbo going to hurt Chargers. Dobbins, I don't think is going to be able to run like he has the last 2 weeks. So Steelers in this one. We'll see what happens. 3-0 Pittsburgh. Anyone have that on their bingo card? Broncos at Buccaneers. A game that Knicks needs to prove something. Winfield out. Vita Vea, he was questionable. We'll see if he plays. I have the Bucks winning until Knicks can show me something. I think Buccaneers offense is going to roll in the pass game, not the run game. They're not running the ball. But I need Knicks to show me that he can function that and get that offense rolling. I'm not giving up on him yet, but being a rookie, he hasn't proved it just yet. So against a good Bucks team, Tampa Bay going 3-0, Broncos sliding 0-3, nothing out of the world. We'll see what happens, but Tampa Bay might win this one by, over a touchdown. I don't see it being too close. We'll definitely see. Packers at Titans. I know you're going to question why the Titans are highlighted. I think the Titans can win this one. Malik Willis is who I'm going to say is the starting quarterback unless that changes. But Love, I think, is rushing if he plays in this game. And I don't want him to get injured again. So I'm going to go Malik Willis as the QB of the Packers. And last week, he didn't do anything. Josh Jacobs, carried that offense. Titans defense isn't the Colts defense. So, and they've proved that, but they need Will Levis to stop turning the ball over. If he can do that, the Titans should win this game. I think this will be a little bit of a cleanup game for them. Packers expected the slide after Love got injured, and this might be the one game. If Love comes back next week, we'll see how healthy he is. But don't be too high on the Packers right now until Love is completely healthy, and that's why I'm going the Titans here. Underdog at home. Titans are going to win this game. And then I have my upset game of the week. Oh man, Panthers at Raiders, and Raiders are highlighted. I'm going to move that over the Panthers. People are going to call me crazy, but Andy Dalton's undefeated against the Raiders, and the Raiders are notorious for losing games they shouldn't. So until both teams prove me otherwise, I'm going to go with the Panthers. Are they going to go 0-17? I don't believe so. If there's a game they can win, this is one of them. Minshew, will we get the Minshew we saw in the fourth quarter against the Ravens? Or will we get the Minshew we saw 7 quarters prior? I don't know, and that's the problem with the Raiders. And they lose games they shouldn't. Andy Dalton going to be a shift. I think the QB dynamic there in Carolina is going to be interesting if the Panthers can walk away with a win under Dalton in his first game. So I'm going to go Panthers. Shot in the dark, but if there's a game they win, this is one of them. And I just don't see a team going 0-17. So let's try it here. Dolphins at Seattle. Coast to coast game here. Dolphins, no Tua. That is the big factor. Seattle coming off OT victory against the Patriots, game they shouldn't have lost, but it was very competitive, and I did see being more competitive. A lot of people are super low on the Patriots. To me, they're a 6-7 win team. So I'm glad Seattle was able to win that game and walk out of there. Now to go up against a Dolphins team who doesn't have a quarterback, Skylar Thompson is not going to impress me. And that's why I'm going to go with Seattle. That's the big factor. I don't think Dolphins defense is just there yet, not completely healthy. And no Tua is just going to change the dynamics, as we know. So until the Dolphins can start winning with no Tua, I'm not taking them. They're a big no for me. So Seattle fans, rejoice. You got to win. Interesting game here. We got the Lions at the Cardinals. Big underdog game for the Cardinals. Why? I'm not just too sure. I think this is one of the other games that'll be heighten it because the Cardinals offense has shown they're impressive. Kyler got, Marvin Harrison Jr. He was rolling in the second game. First game he was nowhere. Now he's here. I mean, he's arrived. So I think they can continue that. But against the Lions, as long as we get Jared Goff, not Jared Goof from last week when they took that loss against the Buccaneers, plenty of opportunities. I have the Lions winning. I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to give Kyler Murray a lot more work than what he got last week from the Rams. No, Aaron Donald is huge for that. So I really think the Lions are going to bounce back in this game. Cardinals, they're a fun team to watch. They're going to be fun all year. They're just not going to win as many games as they would if they had a few more pieces. So we're going to go Lions in this one. And it's a good bounce back game for them. Ravens at Cowboys. Fun game here. Ravens 0-2. I did not have that on my bingo card. I thought that team was going to look really, really good, but they just haven't shown just yet what they can do, and I think they'll get it going. And I think this is the first game to show it. The Cowboys, big loss. Exposed that defense last week by the Saints. I'm not impressed by it. And Cowboys, I didn't have them as good as they were in previous years. They lost a lot of key pieces, defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. It's just Mike Zimmer doesn't seem to have it there just yet by how they performed, allowing 40-plus points. So the Ravens offense, I think, will have their way. Now, can the Ravens not choke? I hope not, but the Ravens do that every year where they lose the game early that they shouldn't. So I think this is a good bounce back game for them. The Cowboys, they may keep it close. I'm just not sold on either side of the ball, just because they can't run the ball. Jackson are a passing situation every time they get on the field. Not saying he can't, but against the Ravens defense, who's been notoriously good over the last few years, I think they're going to get better as they go, and this might be a game where they show it. So I'm going to go Ravens. Cowboys might keep it close. 49ers at Rams. What a game we have here. Injury game of the week. Everyone's been so hopeful for. Oh, man. I feel bad for both teams. You never want to see anyone injured, but both teams are sitting on IR. So Niners heavily favored. Do I think that's fair? I do. I think Purdy will show that he can do something without his big pieces. Kittle's doubtful. Debo's out. CMC's out. At the same time, Jordan Mason, I think you'll have a field day out there, and Brock Purdy might get the ball out to the Ayuk, and they'll do their thing. I think they'll get the win. Rams, they're just not looking convincing so far this year. Stafford's getting older, along with Kyron Williams. He's a good piece, but with Puka and Kupp just not playing, it's hard for Stafford to get the ball down the field through the pass game. The run game's good, but 49ers, they're banged up. Rams banged up. I'm gonna have to take the Niners in this one. It might be closer than what percentage is showing, though. I would not be surprised if this is within a touchdown. Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan they've had some great matches over the years, so I don't see this being too much different, but we'll see. And now we have the bias game of the week. Chiefs at Falcons, Sunday Night Football. And as a Falcons fan, I'd love to say that the Falcons would walk in here and look convincing and get away with a big win. This percentages on the picks are insane to me. 92-8. Atlanta is not favored by any means. The Chiefs, they've looked good. They did have a defensive pass interference call that helped them win against the Bengals. It was PI. I'm not a fan that it had to happen. It's always the Chiefs, it seems, but it was defensive pass interference. They get to win that game. They didn't look too convincing though, because the Bengals team didn't have Higgins. It was a close game. It's the same Bengals team that just lost to the Patriots. So I don't think the Chiefs are as high as everyone thinks. I don't think the Falcons have it as tough as people think. They have a really good defense. Their offense, I think, is starting to get rolling. The defense isn't the issue in Atlanta. Right now, can Kirk get the ball down the field and score? We saw an improvement with the Eagles game, especially on that last drive. I'll tell you, I was thrilled. So I really want to say Falcons here, because they're at home and they're playing a team they don't see often. We have Justin Simmons, and I think that's an X factor against Mahomes. But I'm gonna have to ride with the Chiefs. It hurts me by a lot to say that out loud. But I don't be surprised if the Falcons pull off what they did last week and win this game. Do not be surprised. This is not a blowout game. This is a close, contended game. And I think it comes down to the wire once again with the Falcons. People are underestimating that team as they go along in the season. I think people will open their eyes to them. So we'll take the Chiefs for now. Don't be surprised if the Falcons win. Monday Night Football. Jaguars at Bills. One of two games on Monday night. A little different. I'm not going to complain. Jags at Bills is a big game for Jacksonville. Also a big game for the Bills. I think the Bills, we got to see them play really good against the Dolphins. Divisional opponent. Tua went down, so it kind of swayed the game in a weird way. But even then, they were winning, and Tua didn't look good. Now, the Jaguars, they're not impressing me. Their defense looks better. They got the defensive coordinator from the Falcons last year, so I can tell you I'm not surprised their defense looks good. But can Trevor Lawrence get that offense rolling? I think this is a game that isn't as swayed as heavily as it shows, and I'm gonna take the Jaguars in this one. Bit of an upset, but I'm not as high on the Bills as everyone else is. I think the Bills are not going to be as good as they were in the past. They have a lot of players on IR, and they're missing that are key components. And I think Jacksonville's offense is they're gonna light up teams here and there. And I think this is a game where they come alive a little bit. So I'm gonna take Jacksonville. This could go completely array, but Jags for the win in Buffalo. In the final Monday night game for Week 3 of NFL football. Commanders at Bengals. This isn't even one I have to think about too much. The Bengals will go in here. They will win. They're 0-2. It doesn't mean much, as we know, with the Bengals. Commanders. They got to win against the Giants because the Giants didn't have a kicker. They couldn't get in for a touchdown. They would get in the red zone and their offense would shut down. So the Commanders defense, their secondary needs a lot of work. They're getting torched by every team they play. Bengals with Higgins back, I would assume from the updates we've seen. Even without Higgins, I have the Bengals winning this one. Not really a question to me that Cincinnati holds this one. Commanders, they have promise in Jaden Daniels. Just too early right now, and their veterancy will help them in games, but I still see the Bengals winning probably 7+ points in this one, just because the Commanders, I don't see them keeping up, especially if they can't punch it in. How do you keep up? So we're going to go Bengals on this one. So that's my predictions for this week. Let me know what you think. It's going to be interesting to see a Week 3, how it plays out after Week 1 and Week 2 have a lot of surprises. So let that continue until we get into the mid-season. Towards the end of the season, that's when we see consistency. So for now, we'll see you guys later.